So Real Broker has experienced a significant amount of growth in the past 6 to 12 months. What used to be a company that no one knew about is now a company that everybody knows about. And I'm going to provide you guys today with a great perspective because I've been here for close to 3 years and I've had the opportunity to see growth from the company at 2,500 agents all the way leading up to where we're at right now, which is at the date of this video, it's almost 20 plus agents. I'm going to provide you a little bit of perspective, some behind the scenes type of look of what I've experienced. And then we're going to go ahead and dive into the actual compensation plan so that you can get a really good understanding of what it is and if it's something that's even for you. So the company was founded in 2014. The owner of the company is Tamir Pole. And the idea behind the company at that time was really to build a company on where we can give value to the agents. And that's really was the kind of the central part and the focus of everything is how do we give? As time has passed, that has changed a bit. Not so much of the fact of not giving to the agents, but everything that has been built, the foundation of the proprietary technology and the mindset and the culture of the community has created such a strong foundation base that it has allowed for growth to occur in this present day. But more importantly, because the foundation is laid out, the agent growth is a little bit easier to manage versus other companies that might go through some frustrations. Now, I don't want to say that Real Broker is the most perfect company because nothing's super perfect, but you can almost bet that it's close to it. And what I can tell you in my experience with dealing with Tamir and listening to him is that he's an owner with a heart. He's an owner that genuinely cares, and you will be able to sense it the minute you talk to him. Now let's get into what you're here for. Let's get into the compensation part of everything so that we can try to answer as many questions as you can. So we're going to be covering 3 different types of topics in this video. We're going to be talking about how you can actually keep more of your commissions with some of the splits that are available. We're going to be talking it from an individual perspective, like a single agent. We're going to be talking about it as if you're running a team. And we're also going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek to something that's been super tremendous in the growth of Real in the past year, something that we call the private label. The second thing we're going to talk about is the actual revenue share, how to build wealth, and some of the state-of-the-art technology that Real actually owns that has been able to give them the ability to grow. We're going to talk a little bit about the supportive community that's there, and I'm going to give you behind-the-scenes look at some of the training and education that goes on a daily basis. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's start with the individual agent splits. Real provides an 85-15 commission split. And I'm going to break it down a little bit more just for some of you guys who are maybe just getting into the business and don't understand what that might be. Assume that you're getting a $10,000 gross commission check. What happens there with that $10,000 gross commission check is that you as an agent keep $8,500 and Real Broker will hold back $1,500 that goes to them. Hopefully that's simple enough, but if you do have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. The second thing about Real is that there's no monthly fees. Because it is a production-based company, there is no money to be made or any money to be had if there's no production. So the belief here with Real is that there is no expense if there is no production. And that helps you keep a little bit more money in your pocket. If you're just starting out in the business and you're not producing, you don't have to worry about an additional expense. The next thing that you want to know about is this annual cap. At Real Broker, we have a $12,000 annual cap. Again, let me break that down a little bit for some of the people who might be a little bit new. I talked about that scenario and that example that I gave with the $10,000 gross commission check, $8,500 going to you as the agent, and then $1,500 going to the company. Those $1,500, the more you continue to close in transactions, they'll continue taking those 15%. And as soon as it adds up to the $12,000, what happens there is you get converted into 100% commission. So any future transactions that occur after that annual cap is achieved is 100% yours. Now, let's dive in a little bit more into some of the fees and expenses that I know you want to know about. The very first thing that we're going to talk about is the $750 annual brokerage fee that's paid to Real Broker from the first 3 transactions you do. And the reason we're going to talk about it in this specific order is because we want to talk about some of the expenses that occur in the first several transactions leading up to when you cap, right? Because when you cap, things change a little bit. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's just say that you joined Real and you have 3 closings that happen in the first 2 to 3 months. You're on an 85-15 split on those first 3 transactions. And in those first 3 transactions, Real Broker is going to go ahead and collect a $750 annual fee from those 3 transactions. So what happens is that those $750, they get divided into 3 transactions. So in transaction number 1, they'll take $250. In transaction number 2, they'll take another $250. And then transaction 3 will be the 3rd installment of those $750. And now you have paid the $750 annual fee. So when you do the 4th, 5th, and 6th transaction, you're not going to be paying anything until you cap. And we're going to get into that here in a second as well. The 3rd fee that you want to talk about is the broker and errors and omission processing fee, right? Some of us know it as E&O. And in every transaction that you close on, from your first transaction to the last transaction of the year, there's going to be a $30 broker's error and omissions processing fee that you want to be aware of as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happens after you cap. So we've accomplished closing some transactions, and now you've paid into the company $12,000, which has allowed you to become 100% commission. So now what happens is that every transaction thereafter, you're getting 100% of the commission check. The deductions that occur at that moment is going to be a transaction fee of $285. And they're going to continue to take those $285 in addition to the $30 brokers and errors and omissions processing fee until you've paid in a total of $6,000 in transaction fees. Once you've done that, you have achieved an award that we're going to talk a little bit later about in this video. And when you have achieved that award and you've achieved paying $6,000 in transaction fees, the transaction fee for every transaction thereafter actually gets reduced to $129 per transaction. All right, let's get into the team model and the infrastructure of the compensation plan if you're on a team. Now, teams can be defined in so many different ways. You have your traditional team. You might have a team that is in the same household because you're married. And then you might have a marketing team. So here's the main thing that you need to know. Regardless of how you apply with Real as a team, the following is going to apply. This team infrastructure has been created for the purpose of helping team members who are maybe just getting started in the business, who maybe can't cap as fast. It's designed to help that person get to 100% commission a little bit quicker. Everything ends up being the same for the team leader. For the team members, they'll have the option, as long as the team leader approves it, to be able to go on a $6,000 cap versus a $12,000 cap. This helps that team member get to 100% commissions a lot faster as you would being on a $12,000 cap. Now, one of the requirements behind this is the following. The team leader has to show proof that they've closed at least 25 transactions in the past 12 months, or that they've produced $5 million in volume in the past 12 months. And on top of that, every team member has to sign an agreement with Real Broker in support where you are agreeing to give the team leader at the minimum 10% of the commission checks that are brought into the team. Now, you guys might have your own internal agreement between the team leader and the team member, which let's say it's 25%, but Real just wants to know that regardless of what is agreed upon within the team, at the minimum, there's 10% going to the team leader. That pretty much covers the majority of the team infrastructure. And what happens here is that if a team member elects to be in this type of compensation plan so that they can achieve 100% commissions quicker, what happens is that some of the other production and awards that you get between stocks, things of those nature, they get cut in half versus someone who's on a $12,000 cap. And we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. Now, some of you guys are team leaders with massive teams and you have a proven track record of production. You just have your own way of doing things. If you are this person watching this video, I want you to know about something that we call the private label. The private label is really designed for you to keep everything the way you have it now, with the addition of having some of the tools that Real Broker provides and a lot of the back support that it provides to yourself as a team leader and some of the team members. Now, this particular private label option actually is more detailed. And if you are that person, I want you to reach out to me if you want to know more information about it, because it does get a little bit more detailed and a little bit more custom. So now let's get into the building wealth part. And because there's multiple ways of building wealth, let me give you a little bit more specific with that. We're going to talk a little bit about the stock portion of Real, because it can be pretty lucrative. And there's really two ways to accomplish this. Number one is that you voluntarily have money withdrawn from your commission checks to be put into stocks. And the second way is based on your production. We're going to get into those details as well. Now, the very first thing I want you to know is that this is optional. You do not have to participate in the voluntary option of having money taken away from your commission checks. Now, this is how it goes. Before you cap, you have the ability to have 5% taken out from your commission checks to be invested into the stocks. And what Real does is that they'll actually match you a 10% bonus on this. That bonus is going to be invested, it's a vested amount where you have to be at Real for the year before it becomes something that you could actually touch and withdraw. Now, after you cap, you have the ability to take 10% from the checks. And what the Real does is that they actually match you on a 20% bonus at that. Now, there is some fine print with the stock stuff. There are some cap limits to it, and it really is just kind of based on if you've capped or not. And then secondly, there are some vested period timeframes of these stocks as well. So if you have questions with that stuff, go ahead and put the comments below and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Let's get into the second part of how you earn stocks based on production. So the second way that you can actually earn stocks is by capping and also attracting agents to the company. If you are on a $12,000 annual cap and you achieve that capping status, you will automatically earn 150 shares at the time of this video. But if you are a person who has attracted people and you're on a $12,000 annual cap, then you will earn 75 shares. If you have elected to go on a $6,000 team member plan, then what happens is that when you cap, you get 75 shares. And then when you attract, you get the 35 shares. Now, here's a full disclosure for you guys that I want to share with you is that as the agent count grows, the amount of shares that you get might reduce. So since that I've been here, when it was at 3,000 agents, these amount of shares that we get that when we've capped or attracted people has slowly decreased as the agent count has increased. So if you're watching this video and it's hit a certain number of agent count, I want you to check back with me to know what the amount of shares are, because it's likely that it could have changed since we've made this video. All right, so let's talk about the third way of actually earning stocks. And this is basically based on your production, because you've hit a certain level of production that has allowed you to earn what they call an elite agent. And an elite agent is a significant title at Real because about 10% of the company are actually elite agents. So let's talk about how you achieve being an elite agent and then what happens in terms of earning stocks once you've accomplished that prestigious award. If you are on a $12,000 annual cap and you've also paid in $6,000 in transaction fees, or let's say you've completed 10 transactions and you've made greater than $500,000 in commissions, then you will have the ability to earn $6,000 in stock. Now, I'm going to backtrack there here. If you noticed, I said when you achieve a $6,000 cap, or if you earn $500,000 more in commissions and completed 10 transactions. That second part there is mostly for our luxury agents, the guys that sell the $1 million houses that achieve $500,000 in gross commissions a lot quicker with a slower amount of transactions versus the agent who would typically have to close anywhere from 28 to maybe 35 transactions and pay $6,000 in cap fees. So if you have any questions with that part of it, please let me know. And then the second part of this is that you can actually earn stock by teaching monthly or giving back to the community at Real. And what you're going to find out a little bit later in this video is that we have something called the Real Academy, where we have agents who are elite agents in the company actually teaching something that they specialize in. And I don't want to drop too many hints, but I will get into the details and actually show you what that looks like. All right, so let's get into a topic that a lot of people like to talk about, which is the revenue share. The idea behind revenue share is to get agents that you know that you would love to do business with, and you want to bring them over to Real and work with them. But on top of that, actually get incentivized financially for some of the production that they do. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit of a few things on this revenue share because for some, it's not as important as it is for others, and that's perfectly okay. The very first thing I want to tell you is that revenue share is actually optional. You don't even have to participate in it. Secondly, you might find yourself being a person that knows a lot of people, and you just have people that gravitate towards the way you are, the way you work. And so naturally, you're going to attract agents because they want to know what you're doing and why you did it. And that alone in itself is going to attract agents. And third, probably the most important thing is that Real is designed to be a production-based company and not a recruiting company. And so the mentality here is that if you're not producing, no one, the company, the agent, no one is making money. So it's always focused on production-based first. One of the requirements at Real is that if you want to earn some of the incentives of revenue sharing, you actually have to have a small amount of production being earned every 6 months. And correct me if I'm wrong, but at that moment of this video, that amount is $450 that has to be earned every 6 months in order to be collecting revenue checks. So production is number one key. Secondly, recruiting or attracting agents to earn revenue shares optional, but can be lucrative if you understand it. So let's get into it. So Real has 5 different tiers. On the first tier, you'll have 5% maximum that you could earn per agent that you actually attract. And that has a cap of $4,000 per agent. Let's create this example real fast. Let's say that you have joined Real Broker and you have become a big fan of Real Broker over the time that you've been there. And what happens is that some of your friends who adore you and understand you are curious to know about Real Broker, and then they eventually joined with you. And let's say you've had 4 people that joined with you and they chose you as their direct sponsor. What happens with those 4 agents is that as they're producing, you are earning 5% of every check, right? With the maximum of $4,000 per person per anniversary year. So if you have 4 people, you got 4, 8, 12, $16,000 that you're earning per anniversary year just for the sake of you telling that person about Real and giving them the opportunity to know if it's something for them. Now, where this gets a little bit more lucrative is that you have tiers 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for the most part, I'm just going to touch on tier 2 and not spend too much time on tier 3, 4, and 5 because then it becomes a little bit redundant. But here's how it goes. Your 4 friends that you brought in are super happy where they're at. They love the culture, they love the company, and they love working with you. And then they start bringing in other people themselves. And so what happens is that when they start attracting other people, all of a sudden, it's opening up tier 2 for you, which is 4%. And then the people that they're bringing in is opening up tier 3 for you, which is 3%, and then 2% and 1% as you get into the higher tiers. As you're accomplishing this, right, you've directly brought in 4 agents. So that has opened up tier 1 for you. And then what happens is that you are now having those agents bring in other agents. And now you're at an agent count of 5 and 14. And so now it's opening up tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so this can multiply into a significant amount where we've seen it, and I have personally witnessed it, where there is a lucrative amount of passive income coming on a monthly basis, just from the perspective of you being at a place where you love, being embedded in the culture, and bringing in people who understand you, who like working with you, and who love what Real is about. All right, so now that we covered some of the revenue share part of the tiers and how you get paid, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the benefits behind that, because the whole purpose of revenue share and attracting is to really take care of yourself and your family, not only when you're working, but also when you are done working and have retired. The very first thing that I want to touch on is that revenue share, you actually have the ability, there's a benefit at Real where you can actually choose co-sponsor. And what that basically means is that in other companies, it would be that you would have to pick one person that's at that company, and that would be the company that would be your sponsor. At Real, they were the first ones to actually develop something called a co-sponsorship. So let's say that you love Real and you love everything that it's about, and you love the person that has introduced you to Real, but you also have another friend that is at Real and you're having a difficult time choosing between the two. And so what happens is that with the co-sponsorship, you are actually able to choose John and Sandy as your sponsors. And now they are sharing the revenue cut in half as co-sponsors. And the way that works is that the earnings that they're making from attracting you and anyone else that you're attracting in this manner, 45% goes to John, 45% goes to Sandy, and then the 10% that remains will go straight to the company at Real. And that's how the co-sponsorship works. The second benefit that you want to know about is the fact that the revenue share that you've earned and accumulated over the years that you've been at Real, it's actually willable. And this was actually launched in 2023. And this gives you the ability for your loved ones to be designated as a beneficiary so that you can get some of the revenue in case, God forbid, something happens to you and you pass. And the cool thing about this is that your beneficiary does not have to be licensed. So they can be any one of your loved ones that you can assign as a beneficiary, and they can be part of your will. And then the third benefit that I want to talk about is Real retirement. And there's times that, we are in this business and we've gone to the point where we're ready to retire. And we want to make sure that we're eligible in receiving some of the revenue share that we've accumulated after we're no longer producing. And so one of the things that Real does is that you will be eligible to continue collecting 60% of the monthly revenue share after you're done representing clients. Now, the thing with this is that you have to be an agent at the very minimum amount of time of 3 years with Real Broker in order to actually accomplish and take advantage of the Real retirement feature. Let's get into the training and education part of Real. At any one point, Real has at least 30 plus live sessions going on a weekly basis. And the instructors that are teaching this are some of the elite agents that are the best of what they do, from topics such as social media, video marketing, video editing, or personal development, running teams, you name it, it's all in there. And it's a great place that if you're trying to hone in on a craft, it's likely that someone else has already done it. And you're able to jump in and get into a Zoom session led by one of these elite agent instructors and ask questions as the session is going. It does not make a difference on who your sponsor is, because at Real, it's truly a collaborative community where everyone has access to each other's craft, skills, mindset. And this can allow you to really craft in on something that you're trying to get really great at for the purpose of making more money. And that alone in itself is diamonds for any agent looking to grow. Let's get into the technology and tools of some of the things that Real utilizes that it's an absolute benefit. And the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the Resin app. And honestly, I might have killed that one. It could be Resin. But here's the thing, guys, is that with this Resin app, it's just not any other app that you plug into your phone. The app also is something that you can use on the desktop. But the main purpose of this is to be a central hub to their financial overview of everything that's going on in your business, from listings to pending transactions, to the amount of commissions, to being able to see the revenue shares that you've made, the stocks that you've earned, you name it, everything's absolutely in there. And I'm actually going to give you a perspective of what this really looks like so that you can get a good feel. Now, let's talk about some of the other things before we jump into that dashboard view, because there is some other technology that I want you to be aware of that will also be of a benefit to you. So Real has partnered up with different tech partners in just about every field that you can think of. From the CRMs, we utilize something called Lofty, which again, it's optional, so you don't have to use it, to Sierra Interactive. I've actually used both systems. They're both fantastic. You just really need to choose what works best for you. Now, what I do want to tell you is that some of these programs and softwares, the amount that we pay is significantly reduced. Whether you're an individual agent or someone running a team, I think you're going to find that the price and some of the promotions that they have for us at Real is outstanding. And the last thing that I want to tell you about is you will have full access from front end to back end on the CRM. So you don't have to feel limited, because I know that I've experienced that before with other agents that I've spoken to, where they would use a system but not have full throttle access so that they can customize things the way they operate their business. And then we have companies such as Curator, D-Signs, and Luxury Presence. These are some awesome companies that are doing big things, and they're very well known and nationally recognized by a lot of the agents. So these are some of the partners that we're partnered up with. There are several more. So if you do have questions with any of this stuff, please make sure you give me a shout. But let's get into the dashboard, because I'm going to show you some real cool things that you're going to want to see. All right. So what we're seeing here is the actual demo mode of the dashboard, the proprietary technology that we own. Some of the same information, you're actually able to access it from your app as well. And we're not going to spend too much time here, but I'm just going to highlight a few things so that you can see what this looks like, because I know some of the agents have heard this before, and you've heard a lot of the Real agents just be wowed by this technology, right? So I'm going to kind of give you a quick glimpse of this. And if you do want to get kind of more of a one-on-one training on this to get more in detail, just make sure that you reach in the description below. Just find the calendar and just try to set up a time to talk to me about it. So what you're going to see here right now, we're what we call demo mode. And what this means is that it's going to hide some of the information that is personal and private, right? But what it is going to show you some stuff that you may want to see in other words, right? So we're going to go through some of this stuff, but if you notice, this is an overview of everything that's going on, from the current cap cycle to how much we've paid in the cap, how much longer do I have before I hit elite agent. It's going to show you some of my network on some of the people that I've attracted, and it's going to get more in detail with that as well. It does show you the amount of commissions earned on this side, some of the equity that's been established and paid in and also earned. And then it gets a little bit to if you get to the very bottom of this part of it, it's going to show your independent contractor agreement if you want access to your 1099 form. So it gives you a lot of information that you get access real fast anytime that you need it, right? So let's get into some of the transactions. If you look here, you'll see some of the transactions that are going on right now. And what's cool about this is that we can actually look at these transactions and pretty much print out a CDA anytime that we want it. So now I can only speak for the state of Florida, because some states operate a little bit differently. But in Florida, the agent actually has the ability to put all the numbers put together and then have the CDA sent out for the broker to review. Once they review it and we approve the commission calculation, the actual CDA form gets sent over to the title company. So that makes things real simple, streamlined, and it just allows us to get paid as quick as we need to get paid. A second part of something that's really cool about this is the Real Signature platform. Now, at the time of this video, I can tell you that this is still a work in progress. It does operate pretty good, but every once in a while, there'll be some glitches. And so this is something that's still being worked on, but this is what the Real Signature platform looks like. Let's get into the wealth plan. This is a phenomenal plan. And this is actually something that if you want to have a custom plan set up for yourself, make sure you set up a time with me, because I can actually assist you with this as well. And what this does is for us is that it allows us to understand how long it's going to take us to achieve a certain amount of income for retirement. So if our goal in 5 years is to achieve 5 million, what it's going to do is going to project how long it's going to take us to get there based on everything that we're doing. So from the aspect of getting commissions to earning stock to attracting agents and some of the revenue share, all those things are taken into account so that you can create a timeline for yourself to understand exactly where you're going to achieve that goal. This is a very cool feature that we just launched not too long ago. I think it was in the past 6 months. And it's something cool that even if before you join Real, if you decide to join Real and you want me to run something like this for you, I can absolutely do so. Okay. And some of the other things here too is that you're going to find some of our partners that I talked about a little bit earlier, and some of the marketing stuff. If we want access to our marketing stuff, we can access it from here. Okay. So this is what the dashboard looks like. Very cool technology. And it's just something that you definitely need to experience. And it's one of those things that once you experience it, you like almost don't want to go back to anything else. A lot of times what most companies are doing are using companies like SkySlope, Dotloop. And what happens is that there's a lot of expense that a brokerage is actually picking up by utilizing those companies. Since Real owns this platform, they save a lot of money and they can just pretty much control how they want to do things. And this makes us super successful. And the last thing that I want to share with you is Leo. This is the AI. If I want to try to find something like what are the CDA requirements, I can tap into something quick like this, or I could actually just type it in here and it's going to tell me what the requirements are. Or if I want to figure out what's going on with the check, it'll tell me exactly what's going on with the check and the status of it. All very cool, high-tech stuff. Trust me, it does not as difficult as it looks. Once you get accustomed to it, it's like you never want anything else. It's almost like when you switch over from an Android and go to an iPhone, you no longer want the Android anymore. So those are for my iPhone users. So guys, I know we covered a lot of information there, and I just want to share with you one last thing is, listen, this alignment for me was perfect. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be perfect for you. But what I would do is I would get information, set up a time with me so that we can listen to what's important to you and figure out if this is actually going to be something that actually makes sense for you. And if it's not, that's perfectly fine too. At least give yourself peace of mind that you look through it to understand if this would have worked for you or not.